I see you there.
A very good evening and assalamu alaikum. We are coming to you live from Greater Johannesburg, and we're still asking the question. And as we see Greater being painted the colors of the liberation movement of black, green, and gold, we are asking, what is in it for the black marginalized population? What are the greener pastures for citizens in general? And what are the golden opportunities and policies that the ANC is going to be discussing at this conference? Now, we are joined right now by Pinkie Numa, who is the ANC Women's League coordinator, regional coordinator in Greater Johannesburg. A very good evening, and thank you so much for joining us on this evening.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
So, as we start off, what is your mood towards this conference? What is your feel, and how do you feel that day one and day two kicked off?
Well, day one, not going as well as expected, and according to the program. I mean, literally where day two is now is where day one was supposed to have ended. There's a sum of the challenges that one would expect in an organization that has, many members, as we do, as the African National Congress. But as we are now, credentials being dealt with,
Yeah.
at least there is progress, because once we have gone through, credentials, then the conference can officially, kickstart, and the business which most of us are excited about, which is policy discussions, then can get underway.
Yeah.
But it's not what we thought it would go according to the program, but we are where we are now. At least there is some movement in terms of how we're progressing.
And taking it straight to the women representation in the ANC, but also in the ANC NEC, we see that women are always taking to the deputy position and deputized position. And right now we're seeing that it is two women that are contesting each other. What is the ANC Women's League view on that? In terms of ANC, it seems like women are always made to deputize, but also the contestation that we see between the two women.
Look, we believe that women in the African National Congress can contest any position, whether it is a woman contesting another woman. Women don't contest each other, but they contest the position. So the contest between, the contest for the position of DSG is not between Comrade Nomvula and Comrade Phoebe. It is for the position of DSG, and they happen to be the people that branches had chosen for that position because of the various strengths that they possess. And of course, the African National Congress Women's League believe that first and foremost, there should be an equal representation of women in the top six. Our view is that all discussions of the NEC, before they go to the NWC, to the NEC, they start with the NOBs. And we are not saying men are anti-women, but we always feel that where there is a woman in a space, we are more comfortable that the discussions will be pro-women in the main, and the views and the voices of women will be considered. So that is our stance. We are looking forward first for that there is an opportunity at plenary for delegates to nominate, women who we've seen how, the nominations have gone from branches. They don't favor women because, as you have said, it's only the DSG position that is contested by women. But we're hoping that delegates, with the call that we've been making, that we are saying 50-50, they will redress what has happened in the situation that we are seeing right now.
And if I may ask, what was the ANC Women's League, perspective on who should take, who should contest, or who are the preferred candidates with regards to the top six?
We must take into cognizance the fact that the discussion with the leadership of the ANC was not held at branch level.
Okay.
Yes. So the perspective that you will have is not a perspective of branches
Okay.
of the ANC Women's League. The consultation did not go to that far. And therefore, you will know that, for example, in Johannesburg, when the processes were going on for the nominations, there was no leadership of the ANC Women's League. Gauteng was in a process of doing, Johannesburg, Citibank, and you will have West Rand and so on. When all of these processes of the ANC were happening, for example, there was no leadership because of the disbandment of the Gauteng provincial PEC.
Yeah.
So the collective views of women in broader, ANC society were not captured, but through branches. And we know that women are overpowered in their branches by men, because that is also a representation of, when you consider the representation of delegates of women from Johannesburg, for an example, where it's just plus minus 20 women who are delegates overall, on the number of delegates. So the ANC Women's League came up with a view, the NEC met, and it was not even a consideration of what, the PEC, whose various PECs would have chosen. The NEC met and they had a view with regards to what it is that they wanted, and we take it as that the view of the NEC, of the ANC Women's League. But more importantly, what came out from there is that there should be 50% representation of women in the top six.
And we've seen in recent days that the former, president of the Women's League was handed out a letter by the election committee that, she's not able to contest. What do you make of that?
Look, we believe that the same way that the issue of Comrade Tony Yengedi, for example, was dealt with,
yeah,
there is room, for it to be viewed and for it to be relooked. The ANC Women's League is a league of the ANC. It is bound by the decisions of the African National Congress. We respect the decisions of the African National Congress, but we do not agree to marginalization of women on rules that do not apply to many. Where, you seem to have a view that if they're able to overturn, I mean, literally, in the case of, for example, of Comrade Tony Yengen, scrutiny could have been put to view whether the verdict was removed, the record was removed. Those are things that could have been dealt with even before the letter came out. So Comrade Batabile is fighting that process. We will hear the decision of the steering committee and also the conference with regards to it, and we'll bound by the decision.
On that note, was the ANC Women's League, did it have a mandate, for example, to represent that issue in these specific commissions to ensure that the issue of Comrade Batabile Dlamini is sorted? Or is this something that was sent to the steering committee and then, you await that decision from the steering committee?
The issue of Comrade Batabile is an individual matter.
Okay.
It's a matter of an individual. It is not a matter of the ANC. Hence, you would then not have a mandate of the ANC. She was dealt with as a member of the ANC, as any other member of the African National Congress will be dealt with when they are doing vetting with regards to who qualifies and who does not qualify. And therefore, the processes that any other member will go through is what she will go through. And when she appeals, that's the process that the appeal will go through. When the verdict comes out, it will be dealt with as though it would have been any other ordinary matter. The ANC Women's League has no jurisdiction over this. It's an ANC matter because the membership that is tested is the membership of the ANC.
Also, just a second to last question. Would you agree with the statement that would say that in the previous elections or the local government elections, for example, it is the youth as well as the ANC Women's League hand in hand with the Young Women's Desk that were actually hard at work on the ground, mobilizing for the ANC in general? Would you agree with that statement?
1000% agree with the statement. And the ANC Women's League in particular, the Green Mamba with Molo Makelwane Bibs, kept the campaign of the African National Congress running. And when the ANC Women's League finds itself where, structures are not formalized, we need to rebuild, we need to reorientate ourselves with the leadership of the ANC Women's League because of the various disbandments. It really destabilizes the organization. But look, the ANC Women's League is a strong organization. The women of the ANC are strong women. We will bounce back because what brings us together is rallying women behind the banner of the African National Congress. And that is what we are here for, and that is what we'll continue to do, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the politics of the day, but we remain true to our commitment of ensuring that, one, we also advocate for the various challenges that our women are faced with. I mean, that in Johannesburg there were floods. Our women and their families, they are faced with such issues, which are issues that we are looking, into as the ANC Women's League of Greater Johannesburg in terms of, how do we mobilize society, to be able to assist. So in broader perspective, the politics do not determine, the work that we do. Structures will come and structures will be changed. Leadership comes, leadership goes.
Yeah.
But us as membership, our membership remains intact, and our values and what we are here for remains intact, and we soldier on.
Nice. And just a last one. We hear from the ANC spokesperson, Pule Mabe, saying that there is a recommendation for a second Deputy Secretary General. Has there been any word from the ANC Women's League as to, who fills that position? Would it be recommended that it is filled by, a woman, seeing that, we're trying to balance this thing of 50-50? Has there been any word from the Women's League, but also what is your perspective on having not a top 6, but a top 7?
Well, for me, as long as whatever decision conference takes, whether they can extend it to a top 10 or a top 15, what remains is that there must be an equal representation of men and women in that national office bearers, because it would be office bearers. And unfortunately, the conversation where it's going from the perspective of various people, within the ANC or what we're hearing in the corridors, it serves to try and redress, because all the other positions, as you would see from the various slates, it's males who are dominating those positions, and therefore if the second deputy would be introduced, it would be taken by a man. But still, it doesn't deal with what the pertinent issue is of saying that we want 50-50. So if it is being introduced only to just introduce an additional woman, it's still, the numbers don't tie up. It's actually 2 against 7. So there are still 5 men and there are 2 women. So it does nothing towards the struggle of what we are saying we want to see, where we have a 50. In fact, it would be better if they were introducing it so that we can have 4 women if they adopt, the more than 50% representation, because there tends to be a tendency of misquoting what the Constitution says. It says no less than 50%. It does not say 50%.
Yes.
So no less than 50% can be 60, it can be 70, it can even be 100% of the national office bearers being women. And the ANC, I mean, in fact, the whole NEC can be more than 50%, 100% of women, and there would be nothing wrong with that. But if it were more men, than 50%, then it would be challenged, because the Constitution says there must be no less than 50% of women. So I hope that if the delegates were to agree to it, it is not only because they want to add a number, but we want a quota.
Yeah. Makes so much sense. And just, I think it would be unjust for me to actually let you go without asking. South Africa is filled with the whole issue of gender-based violence and femicide, and I think it would be unfair of me not to get your perspective, or the Women's League perspective on that. So just quickly, we know the president touched on that issue in his political report. Were you satisfied? And also, what is the ANC Women's League's solution into combating such femicide?
I think one of the first things that we need to say as the ANC Women's League when it comes to the issue of gender-based violence is that we appreciate the efforts the ANC-led government are making in terms of addressing the issue of gender-based violence, the pandemic, not just an issue, but a pandemic of gender-based violence. But more needs to be done. It's a societal issue more than a government issue. and we continue to mobilize society against the the scourge of gender-based violence, because government is not going to win this fight for us. It is us as society who are going to win this fight. It is us as women, standing up for what is right, for us, and speaking out against gender-based violence. Because men continue to abuse women, because women, say in their shadows and they don't go, to report for various reasons. And we've come out of, the thought that, a predominant reason is the economic impact, that it will have on the family when, the woman is out of the relationship or is out of the marriage. Because we've seen women who are the breadwinners and who earn more money, than men, being abused by the very men that they are supporting in their households. So gender-based violence is a psychological issue, it's a societal issue, and it's an issue that also requires men, to speak amongst themselves, because they are the perpetrators of gender-based violence. And us as women, we are co-conspirators in gender-based violence, in how we also raise our children, in terms of gender relations. Because if you raise a boy and a girl child, and you tell the boy child, or you give them an impression that they are superior than the girl child, then it is something that is going to continue for very, very many years to come. So prevention must be the order of the day. The focus must be behavioral modification, because what we want to see government doing more is that and working with civil society, is working on preventing gender-based violence more than reacting to gender-based violence when it has already occurred. But just in closing, society needs to take charge.
Yeah.
Members of the community, they need to work hand in glove with government to be able to fight the scourge of gender-based violence.
Thank you so much for that, and thank you so much for joining us. That was Pinkie Numa, who is the ANC Regional Coordinator in Greater Johannesburg for the ANC Women's League. She touched on so many important aspects, the importance of gender-based violence being something preventative and not something reactive. A very important thing that I also picked up was the fact that in the two positions, or in the position of Deputy Secretary General, where we see two women, she made mention that they are not contesting each other, but they are equally contesting the position. And something very interesting that came up is to say that the Green Mambas will continue striking and they will continue rising. This is Anisa Mazimpaka coming to you live from Nasrec, Johannesburg. As we sign out, Assalamu alaikum.